Hello, everyone, and welcome to Aging in Place, the Greater Naperville Area's Family Guide. Our goal here is to help the sandwich generation, which is middle-aged adults typically in their 40s or 60s, who are squeezed by the responsibility of simultaneously supporting their aging parents while raising their own children. We want to help parents age gracefully as possible and reduce stress through education and community connection. It takes a village, and there are a lot of great resources and ideas that we try to uncover through expert guests in our local area. I am your host, Dan Drews, and with me is my co-host and sponsor, Mr. Brennen Roberts, the owner of Seniors Helping Seniors for the Greater Naperville area. And we also want to thank one of our other great supporters, the Naperville Area Chamber of Commerce, who is a great advocate for all businesses that support seniors in the Naperville area. Brennen, good to see you again. How's everything at Seniors Helping Seniors?
It's great. It's great. So, this is a topic that's super interesting for me. We provide in-home care to help seniors live independently as long as possible. So that can be in the home they grew up in and lived for the last 50 years, or it could be in independent living. And, we see homes in various states of livability. And, we look for obviously, fall assessments and risks, but the ability to get to these houses and memories down to more manageable, smaller places is a huge part of things, and families have a lot of worries on their minds. So the fact that there's people out there like yourselves that can help take care of this is great.
Well, Brennan, thank you again for all you do and your business, Seniors Helping Seniors in the Naperville area. It's fantastic stuff. And folks, we are joined today to help us with this topic and focus our show today on how to prepare your parents and yourself for the critical steps involved with seniors transitioning to a new home and some legacy planning. And joining us here today is Tammy Bilek. She is a certified senior move manager and the owner of Honoring Aging. Since 2005, she's helped hundreds of seniors and families navigate life transitions with care, expertise, and a passion for making new spaces feel like home. And with her is Mr. Michael Bilek. He is co-owner of Honoring Aging and serves as both a move manager and an after-loss professional. With a background in sales and client services, Michael brings calm leadership and practical support to every transition, whether managing a move or guiding families through the next steps after a loss. Thank you so much for both of you being here. We appreciate it. Tell us a little bit about Honoring Aging and how you even got into this business, a business I didn't even know existed until I met your company.
Yeah, we hear that often. So our business has been in existence for 22 years. I've had the privilege to work with it and for it and now own it for 21 years. I was an employee first for 13 years, and then Michael and I purchased the company 8 years ago. So we have helped seniors downsize and relocate, and it's first of all gratifying, right? The way that they treat us and just helping them navigate through this very stressful part of their life has been, just a blessing to myself. I can't see myself working or retiring anywhere else. So just kind of like big bird's eye picture of like what we do and what that looks like. So I was one of the first 4 employees of Honoring Aging, and now we have 30 employees. We're based out of St. Charles, and we work all over Chicagoland helping families and individuals downsize, relocate to whether it's moving from home to home or it's moving from their current home into independent living or even assisted living or memory care. And then also it can include that we're putting an estate to rest. So once they move and get settled, what are we doing with the leftovers? So we're helping and guiding them through that entire process. Almost think of it as the wedding planner of the moving industry. So all of the little details someone has to manage. So that is where we come in and help those seniors and families take care of all of the details. So last year we helped 420 individuals with their process. So
that's great. Well, the wedding planner analogy really hits home for me with a son getting ready to get married and all the moving parts. I can imagine that part of advisement and guidance has got to be just absolutely invaluable for these families too. So
Absolutely.
I imagine I think we were talking about it earlier, there's a lot of chaos that goes on, and it sounds like you as the move management can help shield families from that chaos.
Also the chaos coordinator, we've been called. Yeah, the Blue Angels, as we wear blue shirts, different things. So yeah, absolutely. And we just want to be a resource for, whether it's the family member or the individual moving, or even, someone like yourselves, Brennen, like, okay, I think it's time for this person to, who's going to help them if they don't have local family to come in and help with that service.
Yeah. Michael, I've got a question for you. One of the things I read in your bio there was after loss professional. What does that mean, or what does that encompass of being an after loss professional?
Yeah, that's a great question. So an after loss professional, really, we've got two aspects to it. One of them is legacy planning. Let's get our stuff together in order for our kids when that time does come, so that it's easier for our children and our loved ones to handle our estate, right? It takes an average of, or at least a minimum of 500 to 570 hours to actually put an estate to rest over 18 months. So the idea is, let's get things planned ahead of time and take that burden off of our kids and our loved ones. Then there's a second part of it. When someone does pass away, is helping that executor, helping that trustee walk through the process. Literally, it could be hand holding, doing proxy work, going to the bank, going to the attorneys with them, and making sure things are settled and handled in the proper way. We are not attorneys, we're not accountants, we're not financial advisors, but like we're the wedding planner for the move. I'm kind of like the wedding planner for that after loss, right? Make sure all the resources are pulled together for that person and that everything is put together. That way the person or the family can focus on grieving their loved one, which is really where their process needs to be. They don't have to worry about the details. Was the insurance contacted? Have the paperwork been sent? We take care of all that, making sure that it goes forward.
Yeah, and I've got to imagine that's got to be invaluable when your head and your heart is all over the map after you've just lost a loved one.
But I love the idea of, you said, planning ahead, because as we have these conversations, we talked about estate planners or financial advisors, and that seems to be the common theme for anybody of our sandwich generation. It's like, start the conversations early. Don't wait until you're in a state of chaos or you've lost. So have those conversations now when your parents are capable of it.
Well, sure. Brennen, I know you've kind of alluded to the story before, but you could have really used their services back in the day with your dad's situation.
Oh yeah. I was telling you that I'm one of those. What was the number? It was like 60% of caregivers live like over an hour. So I was like that for my father, and trying to help manage his transitions from home to assisted living and nursing home to eventually passing away, and then having to help clear out the home from a distance was just extremely difficult. And working full time, trying to find the time to do it, and when you actually went to do it, I think I was telling you, my dad had basically one room, his office, which was whatever lifetime's worth of stuff, which was meaningful to him, but not really for anybody else. And just having to go into this one room, smaller than the room we're in right now, it was, at least a day's work of work for me. And it was, I'm sure I over purged, at some point. You start off with good intentions, but then afterwards you're like, okay, just going to swoop these papers in. I hopefully I didn't throw anything out that was needed. But
kind of look at the top and look at the bottom and like, okay, I feel pretty good about the whole stack going.
Well, and Michael and Tammy, questions for you. Do you get that very often where the kids live in Ohio or Michigan or somewhere far away, and you have to do a lot of the local heavy lifting? Is that one of the dynamics you face very often?
Yeah, very, very regularly we handle that. Sometimes it's even moving mom or dad or parents from out of state. Maybe they've been in Arizona, but they want to move back closer later in life to their kids. So we'll actually help coordinate that whole out-of-state move. But oftentimes families in this generation have separated. Work has taken them to different parts of the country. And so it's the families find it a lot more easy on them as well as their parents when they can just have someone like us come in and be their pseudo children for a period of time to help with that transition. And then even when things don't go great for that, they're mad at us. We walk away and we're done. They still get to have great Christmas dinner, Thanksgiving dinner with their family. They don't have to worry about having a bad
that's
person
great.
there.
We always tell people. Like, we want to help take the burden off of
Yeah.
families.
Absolutely.
I say I want you guys to be a son and a daughter first,
Yeah.
and not a caregiver. So
Right.
let us take that burden off you, and then you guys focus on being a family and helping your
And
loved
there's so
ones.
many levels to it, right? It isn't just, okay, we've moved to mom and dad, they're settled, everything's great. It's like now about the leftovers of the home. Like what is happening? What's the local resource when they're living in Texas that they don't know who that we should call Restoration Ministries or Chicago Furniture, like they don't have those connections. They're just like, okay, I have to empty this house because I need it on the market. Do I have an estate sale? Do I send things to consignment, or do I need a junk? Like, what do I need? And by the way, I have 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tammy, in those situations, is part of your job family referee, right? When you got Janie and Jimmy and Johnny like all fighting or disagreeing on how things,
Yes.
do you ever have to put on the referee whistle and try and navigate that?
I do. I always remember that the senior normally is my client, right? So what are their wishes? If, the daughter's trying to push like, oh, we should take this set of furniture or this end table or this TV. Well, dad hasn't turned that TV on in 3 years, right? He doesn't even know how. No, this is his key zone. We'll talk more about that. And it's important to replicate like how we currently live. Like you come home on the weekend, here and there, and it's like you're just seeing a little glimpse of how dad lives, where we can recognize pretty quickly of like, this is the key zone with the end table next to the recliner and the dog bed on the left side, right? So it's like, what does that look like in our new place so we can mirror image how he currently lives? We respect that she has an opinion, but it's really, Dad, how do you see your new space really looking? And that's really important to talk directly to them because they're the ones that are going to live there and love it.
Yeah, I imagine, you have to walk gingerly, I'm sure, through some of those conversations. So.
Absolutely.
Well, Brennen, do you have a picture of my grandma's place? Okay, this is one of the things, because I also had a situation like this too. My grandmother passed away after she was 96 years old, and my dad was trying to find what to do, and her condo sat there for a couple of years as we tried to figure out what to do. And so I finally had to go down and make multiple trips, and the one on the right, picture on the right is kind of what I started with, and then the picture on the left is what I ended up clearing all out. And to Brennan's point, plenty of big trash bags in there too. But I found one of the things, I wonder if you guys could speak to this, is the difficulty, or I guess more of this, the understanding that I had to have for my dad, because it was his mom, that I had to have some patience to, I would probably go through it probably more expeditiously, where he wanted to tell stories. And I know you guys have alluded to that it's you have to be careful how to deal with the emotional side of this business.
Yeah, I would say 90% of moving is emotional, in my opinion, because every item that you're giving up, you're grieving over that, right? That was a part of your life for a certain amount of time. And you really have to allow yourself to say, I have loved it long enough and it's time to let it go. So you did a great job, by the way, but I'll use an example as a dining room table. And sometimes our clients have a really hard time giving up the dining room set, dining room table, china cabinet, buffet, because it's been a staple in their home for 40, 50, 68 years, whatever that looks like. And so I always ask the question first, have you loved it long enough, right? That you have to allow yourself permission to let it go and also visualize the next family member that you're going to donate it to, creating those same memories around that table. But just like if it was a card table for 50 years, would we still have those same memories?
Yes.
We would, right? So we try to take the emotion off of the item and say, you still have the memories down deep inside or even pictures of those memories. So the item we can let go, but again, it's giving yourself permission.
Yeah, I think that part, it took me probably a half a day to really tune into that on how important it was when my dad was moving slowly through it, that it was bringing back all these flood of memories and everything that went with it too.
Absolutely.
In conjunction with my project that I had here too. I found it interesting. You told me you have like 30 pages of vendors you deal with in all sorts of areas and stuff too. Like we had to call two guys in a junk truck who were amazing, by the way, at the way they Tetris things. But your list of contacts has got to be immense for whatever it is you're going to walk into.
Yeah, absolutely. The moment that when I started happened about 20-ish years ago, when I didn't have a resource for someone, it was like, oh my goodness, why don't I have an answer for them? So that's when Amy and I started our resource list to make sure that if you have some, like you walk into a home and it's like, I really want my art appraised. Great. We have someone that will come in and praise just art. Don't ask about the china. This is what they specialize in, or to come out and let you know how much your silver, can be bought for. And also, like, I have a garage full of styrofoam. How do I recycle that? Okay, real question.
Unusual request,
right?
yeah.
But
a real
question.
thing.
Yeah,
Huh?
absolutely.
Okay, wow.
He was in one of my presentations that I gave, and he goes, I've just been saving it because I know I shouldn't throw it away. So I found him, I just need where you live, a great resource to make sure that he can do that in the right way. Again, he wants to honor, and recycle exactly what he has in their home, whatever that looks like. So it is also about, we work all over Chicagoland, so we want to have the right resource in their neck of the woods. So if that's in Evanston, if it's here in Naperville, LaGrange, Rockford, wherever that is. So that's why it's 30 pages.
Man, it is interesting what people hold on to, whether it's collector plates or styrofoam, or you mentioned a professor that kept old like tests and homework assignments. It's important to them for a reason, and you have to then navigate that reason, whatever it is. Yeah.
First of all, let them tell the story one more time, right? And sometimes by allowing them to tell the story makes it easier for them to part with that item. So whether it's shredding the homework, right, that she assigned years ago, and it's time to shred it and let that go, or whether it's the dog's teeth that she kept for years and years because it's a memory. She loved that dog, but let's just keep the picture of it and not the teeth of that dog. Or is it something that once the family hears the story, maybe this is something that they didn't think that they wanted, but now that the story has, brought really joy to them, that they should keep and pass on.
Yeah. I find that all the time with like relative stuff from my wife's family. I might not know it. And like, what are we doing with this old country club ice bucket? It's kind of thing. You're like, oh, well, my grandmother won the ladies championship one year, and that was the prize, and stuff like, oh, that's, you look at it totally differently. It used to be this kind of gaudy looking thing. Be like, oh, okay, that's now I understand.
Yeah.
I'm amazed by how much of your job is part psychology. And Brennen, if you take me to the next slide here too, we're gonna take a look at this topic right here. We'll come back to those pictures a little bit too, because you guys have done some amazing work. But transfer trauma, tell me a little bit about that and kind of what that is.
So transfer trauma or relocation stress syndrome, so either title means the same thing. So there is definitely a great definition behind it, but it's also, for me, like seeing it every day is like you're kind of frozen in your stuff, right? And it's like, I can visualize myself living at Sunrise of Naperville. I think that is a great community. I can, visualize myself going to dinner, but I'm stuck here and I just can't get there, right? Where we'll come in and, my first question always to my client is, how do you feel about moving? And what are the questions or the things that are keeping you up at night to not be able to get there in 30 days? Right? So again, understanding and more importantly, listening to, just like when we helped my grandma move, she told me why she wanted to move, but I needed her whole family to hear that, because there was family members that didn't want her to leave that childhood home. So to hear it as a family, Grandma, why do you want to move? I don't feel safe here anymore. Right? So I couldn't say that to the rest of the family. They were like, oh, you didn't hear that right from Grandma. But when it came out of her mouth, then all of a sudden, everyone just seems to be on board with it, right? So to really understand of like, how do we get them? What does their pathway really look like? And how can we just assist them through that?
Yeah.
That's a powerful statement right there from Grandma, right? I don't feel safe.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And yeah, nobody's going to want that.
When we were talking earlier, Michael, you were talking about I don't think we as the same should initially appreciate how big of a change this can be for people.
Yeah, so it's one of the top three for seniors. It's one of the top three most stressful things they'll go through, right next to losing a spouse or losing a child, which both are really difficult things.
Yeah.
Younger folks like us think, oh, we're just going to pick up our stuff and move, but oftentimes we're moving to a bigger house, right, where we can create more memories and not give stuff up. But we got to remember that this is a lifelong treasure that we're helping folks recognize that they're giving up. And like Tammy said earlier, it's like they got to grieve over it, right? And let them have that grief, just the same as a person would grieve over losing a wife or a spouse or a child.
Yeah, that's when you put it like that, it really hit home for me. It's like you recognize in many cases people have, it's not just the home, it's not the stuff, it's the neighbors, the neighborhood, their place they go for breakfast. They're like giving all of that up, and it's such a. And in many cases, it's not because they want to; it's because they have to, or maybe family members are pushing them and stuff like that. So that recognition that we need to have of like the significance of this is important.
We like to say we aren't just packing boxes and moving boxes; we're packing and moving a lifetime. And that's really what it is.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's impactful.
Wow.
Well, Brennen, do me a favor. I don't want to skip over that one before and after because I think this is amazing work. So, Michael, to your point you just made, right? You're packing a lifetime. Sometimes that lifetime's got a lot of stuff in it, I'm sure, right? So how do you guys go from kind of the before to the after? Like, is there part of your brain that kind of has to erase all the clutter sometimes you see to kind of understand where you need to get to, or how does that work for you when you walk into a client's house and see what the project entails?
I'm going to let Tammy answer that because she does a way better job at that specific thing than I do.
So it does feel very chaotic, right? They think like this is just not possible, especially if there's a very short amount of time that it's going to, well, I've committed to move to that community in 30 or 45 days. It's like, oh boy, but it's like, this is one piece of the puzzle, right? So it's the bathroom is one piece of the puzzle. The bathroom vanity cabinets are one piece of the puzzle. And we're just here to, put the puzzle pieces together. So going in and sorting, this was one of Amy's clients that she helped with. And it could be meaning, yes, we're moving them from this location to that location, but it could also mean that they're aging in place where they've just become a little messy, right? I'm very guilty of that as well when I don't have enough time. And we just need to go in and help that. But if they are moving from A to B, whatever that looks like for them, and they're looking at it from this very large bird's eye view where I'm looking at it like, let's talk about the furniture that's going with us first. And they'll say, well, I was thinking about taking that table. It's smaller and it came from my grandparents. I do have a couple of chairs for it. And so it's like, all right, then the kitchen table, we're not. So again, some negotiation of discussion of items. So we always start with a floor plan, right, for our clients. So that meaning that we measure the furniture in their current home, measure their new space, and what's going to fit into that space. That floor plan that we present to them will actually start to visualize what their new home is going to look like, and it's going to get excited for them. So it's like, oh, everything that you measured is going to fit in, right? So, and again, we do some coaching through that as we're walking through the house, and as we start to look in literally every nook and cranny, because we have to have a plan for those items that we're looking at. So yes, are they going with us? Are we donating things? Are we having an estate sale? So lots of different avenues. Well, I really wanted that bedroom set shipped to my daughter in Wyoming. Can you do that? Absolutely, we can arrange that. So, or I had a recent client, she's like, I really want to save that chandelier because it was from my family. So again, what does that look like? Again, that's a small detail, but her mentioning it allows us to make that a part of our plan. So then what we do is we normally pack 2 days, a day to 2 days before move date. So we'll come in and pack everything that they're taking with them, right? So either they have chosen to sort up until that date, which is a lot of decision making. Or we will go in ahead of time and help them sort through all of the items. So when we pull open the kitchen cabinet and there's 7 pie plates, I've never made 7 pies all in one day, but there's 7, right? So we have to make a decision of, are we keeping 1, maybe 2? I would pick the peach one, she's going to pick the metal one because it has family history, right? So we'll go in and sort with them so we're ready for pack day. And then they'll sleep in their home the night of packing, so we'll leave out essentials for them. And then move day morning, again, familiar faces there with them, making sure, like, did you eat breakfast that morning? Where is Bandit's leash and treats? And, or do we need corral the cats? Whatever that looks like. And then moving truck comes, get it all loaded, head over to the next location and completely unpack them. So it's normally a 2-day process for us, and that's hard for them to visualize because they're just thinking, well, I've lived in this house for 48 years. How are you going to do this in 2 days? Because we don't have a connection to their things. We're just here to, yes, they're in this space today, and tomorrow they're in a smaller space, but we're going to make it feel like home for you. We do a lot of picture taking to make sure we recreate how they live.
As you're going through that sorting process, I would imagine you have to have your radar up for how physically and emotionally taxing it is for probably some of these people too. Like, I remember as I'm going through my grandma's stuff, like my dad would get physically tired and almost a little emotionally tired. And so we had to kind of engineer some breaks as we kind of went through it. And not go, like for me, right, I wanted to go all day, long stretch, and I don't think that was very feasible for him.
No.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is hydration, right? Like, first of all, as seniors in general, I'm almost in that category, we don't drink enough water to keep ourselves hydrated. So we will make sure while we're sorting, they're sitting in a chair, saving energy, right? And they're making decisions. Yes, I want that. No, I don't. Or more importantly, telling a quick story about something. We can't tell stories about every item, but we want to hear some stories for sure. And then, of course, stopping, taking a break for lunch. If we need to do that, while they've made a lot of decisions, we can do some packing through that. But then also, it's 3 to 5 hours, right? And usually more 3 to 4, right? And that's when our brain is like, I'm done. And it's important to recognize that and recognize when they need a break as well. So our team is very in tune to that. And then also too, like if there is any type of memory issues going on, we had some dementia training from Levon not too long ago. So our team is also aware of that as well. And most of the time, even for myself, we're really pretty good in the morning, right? Later in the day, not so great.
We all run out of steam at that point.
So again, we recognize those things. So it's important to start 9, 10 o'clock in the morning and get a lot of things done in a short amount of time. You own about 330,000 items in your current home. So that's a lot of decision making.
That is a lot of decision making.
Are there ever times where you can feel the older person's frustration and have to like call a timeout and take a unplanned break just because that anxiety or emotional part's getting too high?
Yeah, and it's okay to stop and sit down and say, what's really going on? Like, because it's not normally about what we're doing, it's about the grief that they're going through, right? So it is that even though it's a cup or, a picture album we haven't looked at in 50 years, but it's still each one of those items that we're saying yes or no to, it's a grieving process. And sometimes we just need to stop and say, okay, let's just talk about how you're feeling, right? Because that is the biggest part of this is our emotion.
Yeah. It's funny. I look at this. This is maybe not what you're getting into, but I see a lot of like storage for seniors needs to transition in many cases. I walk in, you see people that like, in this case, probably it's all under counter storage. And as you start losing your mobility, you're not going to be bending over to get it.
Put it on the counter.
I was in a kitchen this morning and this old lady has a cabinet's way up here. I'm like, well, she can't even reach that, so she's not going to climb up a step stool. So a house might have worked great for her, 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, but that kind of thing doesn't work now. So, if you are staying in place, sometimes you just need to take a fresh look at how you organize and store things and stuff. So.
Absolutely.
Brendan, I want to talk a little bit about the long distance folks too, right? So we kind of talked about it before, Michael, when we're talking about you got the son or the daughter live in Ohio or Wyoming or wherever too. How do you work with these families that are out of state? Are we sending pictures or videos? Like, what's that communication like to get mom or dad the moving assistance they need when they can't come all the way in from Wyoming? How does that work?
The moving assistance part is easy, right? Because
Okay.
we just handle that with mom or dad right
Okay.
here locally. But yes, we do FaceTime videos. We do lots of pictures. We're actually working with a client right now in Bolingbrook, and her daughter, she ended up breaking her pelvis. She moved out to Arizona to be with her daughter. And so it's kind of a very similar situation, but we're helping take lots of pictures. We're getting things prepared. We use specific companies where we can ship like 10, 12 boxes. It doesn't cost a fortune to be able to do that. But we just understand what it is needs to go where, right? And it's just a lot of communication. We can't over communicate, but that's really what it is. It's just a lot of communication, having an understanding sometimes it's just understanding what kind of things they're looking for. And that triggers us to look for a whole lot of different things just because we know what they're looking for, even though they might not have actually said it. But FaceTime video is really important for us. That's been a game changer for us in some cases. We'll jump on the phone and we'll just literally walk through someone's home for an hour, hour and a half on that FaceTime call or even a phone call.
Yeah, I can imagine those would be some long walks sometimes, with trying to go through however many items you said that
Yeah,
we have.
330,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you do that, do you have just like a clipboard and kind of a log of, okay, dishes check, blankets check, like you're just going through and kind of inventorying items, or?
So that's a great question because I feel like we're using that a little more often,
Uh-huh.
right? Because families are scattered, right? Jobs have taken them other places. So I zoom in the sand and write in the sand, right?
Yeah.
It really is about that. I'm a very visual learner,
Mm-hmm.
so we'll walk through the house and I'll remember quite a bit. But sometimes it, yes, is about that initial Zoom call, but then it's like also about as we find things, right? So they created a list for us, or we've located what was on the list. But then you're going to have questions about things that they didn't even know existed, right? And you're like, okay, if this was mine, I would probably want to at least ask about it. Like this morning, we opened up a cedar chest, and there was, I'm going to say, a family emblem of some kind, right? That they're like, oh, where was that? I didn't even know it was in there, and some of mom's jewelry as well. So again, it's about, this is the list that we've started with. We always call it, this is plan A. And then sometimes we find plan D or F, right? But it is like, we are maybe the last ones to touch it or see it. So again, quick video of like, we found this, or quick pictures, we found all of these things today, so they still get to make the final decision on that. And then they'll decide what they want shipped to them. So we will also manage that whole process of shipping things out of state to them, whether it's one picture, right? I had one recently up in Northbrook that I had 5 family members, and one gentleman wanted one picture. This gentleman, he goes, I put all my stuff in that closet. Can you just ship that to me in California? Great, we'll do that. Then we had all of the furniture going to Wisconsin, and then 2 local cousins. Again, it's really like divide and conquer, right? But someone, again, has to be that planner in the middle to make sure all of that comes together and happens.
Okay.
Yeah. It probably helps to have a third party, like you said, not in the middle of it, versus the oldest sibling being the one that decides it, because that never ends up being fair.
Yeah.
So I imagine, have you found any, I was just curious, like things get packed away, like just found other things like that where people had forgotten about or haven't seen or seen anything like valuable, like, oh my gosh, I didn't know.
Like, so I love the word valuable, right? But to who is it valuable to?
Yes,
right? Is it the children, the client themselves, the auction house, like who has the value? I think the most recent was a Nazi helmet.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
And again, I know there's a lot of controversy about that, but that still is part of our history, right? And so it is one of those things that has been obviously passed down through generations, and it was very strategically packed in the closet underneath a lot of things. And that was one of the things that we sent to the family and saying, this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What are we doing with this? Because I'm definitely not taking it to a location.
Yeah, but it could be like a World War II veteran who,
Oh,
like,
well,
it was a souvenir. Like, I know they
Well,
have
souvenir, but I think
Rugers or whatever. You
Yeah.
know,
and I think
so.
what happens is it gets buried in the closet, and they don't tell the family about it because at some point I think they feel what they were doing was not maybe in line with who they are, and so then they have a little bit of embarrassment with it. So, but I can't get rid of it. I've not grieved it, so it's going to go in the closet. And get in the way.
Absolutely. Yeah, but I mean, I don't want to say you name it, we found it, but you know, we have found some, you know, like $60,000 wrapped in freezer paper and freezers,
Holy
right?
cow.
Like, because that was how they didn't trust banks, right? Depending on the generation, so they saved their money, right? And that's one of the reasons and one of the places that they saved it. Also, money in the tank of the toilet.
Oh, really?
Right? Because
Who's going to look there?
Yeah.
Put it in a Ziploc bag and
Yeah.
it's there forever, right?
Yeah.
So there is a lot of interesting things when you pull open the drawer and you think it's like, oh, there's linens in here, and then you start to kind of stick your hand and it's like, oh, well, who is this? Oh, well, that was my previous wife, right? And it's like, oh, okay, well, what are we doing with that, right? Type of thing. So you just never know until you really kind of dig into it. And I think that what, you know, for me, like, keeps me coming back to the client. Like, even though, yes, I'm one of the owners of this company, but I see clients 2 to 3 times a week because I love them. Like, I love to hear their story and I love to coach them through this entire process. And I really want them to love life at that new community that they're moving to. The gal that I went and saw today, she had lived in that community 14 years, and now we have to move her to assisted living. You know, and I remember her moving her there, and I said, "Have you loved it for 14 years?" And she goes, "Best decision I've ever made."
Oh, that's great.
You know, and so it makes me feel good too that we helped her with that process, and now again, continuum of care, retirement community, so she's allowed to move to assisted living and still, you know, be involved in a lot of activities and come back down and see her neighbors and all of those different things. So a lot of joy for myself too.
And you probably be like, oh, this move is going to be easy because the last person who helped you out did such a good job.
Yeah, she's collected a little bit more in 14 years, but absolutely, yeah. Sure. She's like, I remember your speech before, less is more and better.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit too, right? Because you mentioned the average number of items that people usually have. I think my grandmother had double that, you know, right? Yeah. And so you deal with, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners too have watched the show Hoarders, and you said that's kind of a technical term. We're going to use the term collectors, which I think is really good. Yeah. My grandmother was definitely a collector. How do you kind of walk into those, I guess, more extreme situations too? And if Brennen, kind of go to this too, talk about how if there's a lot in there, and you know in your head, it's a lot of stuff that needs to find a garbage bag. How do you walk through those extreme situations?
Absolutely. So, well, we just did a recent project in Oak Park. Really, for me, like, I love collectors, right? Like, I have people who collect in our own family. It's just one of, I don't know, it's been always called to me. When Matt Paxton started the show Hoarders, we've been trained by him as well through NASM, the National Association of Senior and Specialty Move Managers that we're a part of. He has come in and done several classes for us. Amazing person. I will give a quick little shout out to his book. Everyone should read it. Keep the Memories, Lose the Stuff. And he has a new show out. But I think that again, I have to understand what's the end goal. Right? Because you are instantly going to be overwhelmed with how much stuff is in there, right? So whether it's one room or recently 4 stories, right? So it's like, whether it's from the individual person living in the home or from a family, like, help me, like, walk me through what's in your mind of what is the end goal with this, right? So is it, yes, I want to have an estate sale. I want to donate everything we can. I know we're going to need junk haulers, but this list and this room is what I'm looking for. Okay, great. So it's really, again, communication. And then when you start, right, sometimes you have to stop. First of all, it's extremely overwhelming if you're not prepared for that. And you're wearing gloves and a hat and a respirator to protect yourself in long sleeves, or sometimes a suit of some kind, just depending. And to like, okay, stop. First of all, accept the wins, right? Like, oh my gosh, I found something. Like, everyone in the whole house should know that you found the safety deposit box key on the dining room table that you couldn't see because it was this deep, right? So you have to celebrate as you go along, but ideally, if the homeowner cannot be there because it feels like you're throwing their entire life away, right? Whether you are donating or having this, but again, it feels like it's all gone instantly, right? So again, what's the end goal so we can be a part of that vision that they have? Sometimes we have to recreate the vision as we go, where it's like, okay, I've decided we're having this donation come every single day to pick up our donations. Well, now we have found layers of mold in the house or infestations in the house. So now it's like, okay, that option is no longer an option. And now what are we doing? Now we need a new dumpster every day because maybe there's too much feces in it and it's just not donatable, or the mold or asbestos if we found things in the basement. And sometimes you don't know any of that until you start to dive into it, right? So it is like, as you kind of go through the layers of what that looks like. But most people are not collectors. So to where to start, right? So there's a list that some of you are seeing on the screen as well. So it is not starting, like I remember when Michael and I decided to move 19 years ago, well, let's take on the basement this weekend. No, thank you. I love you, but I don't want to do that. So where I'm like, I want you to pick a space that's doable in about 20 minutes. So you see your progress so you can keep going.
Yeah.
Right? So again, small areas,
goals.
small areas, small goals. So, easy spaces. I don't want you to start with, all the family pictures. No, start with the linen closet. Start with the junk drawer. Start with the Tupperware, cabinet or drawer. Like, start small, and it's like, okay, I did that drawer. Let me go on to the next drawer. Or spices, right? Start there. Again, small little spaces, you'll see the progress, and you're like, okay, I can take on, half of my closet tomorrow. I'm not a huge fan of like Marie Kondo method, and there's a bunch of other methods out there. It's like, well, let's do all of the clothing. Well, do you realize how many pieces of clothing that you own? That's a lot, right? But you could break it down and just do one drawer every day in your dresser, and that's doable, right? And you'll be done within a week, type of thing.
Small bites.
How do you eat an
Small
elephant?
bites.
Old adage, how to eat an elephant. One
Yep.
bite at a time.
One bite at a time, right? Right, yeah.
And if I always say, try to have a friend, right, or a loved one, because they'll be honest with you, be like, Brennen, really? You still wearing that shirt? Like, it's time to, let it go. I always say, play music, hydrate, and give yourself a pat on the back, and always like have some candy or something sweet just to kind of keep pushing you through the day of going through those. But again, small areas at a time.
Yeah.
I like
that
this.
sounds good,
I like
'cause
this.
it could be overwhelming. For some.
Celebrate the wins. I like
Yeah.
that.
Celebrate the wins.
The little things will keep you going. For
Absolutely,
sure.
yeah.
Well, Brent, let's talk a little bit too about different tips, I guess, you have for relocating to a memory or skilled care facility too, right? Like especially if I'm going from my house, like my mother-in-law right now lives in Lombard, and she wants to be in that house as long as possible.
Yes.
And at some point, if that transition has to be made from a home that you love to a specialized facility, are there particular things you do differently than you would if somebody's just moving from Lombard to Naperville?
That's a really great question. Same answer I've had for a long time. Get them settled for 2 weeks and don't do anything with the house.
in the new place, you're saying. Okay,
Yes.
so
Yep.
leave the old house
Mhm.
alone and get them settled in the new place.
Right.
Okay.
We want them to feel settled, right? We're not making 15 decisions. We're just moving,
Mm.
right? We're moving either to memory care, skilled care, assisted living. We're getting settled, and that's what we're going to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
We're not deciding on what's happening with the leftovers. Now I can't drive anymore. What are we doing with the car? All of those things that they're thinking is like, no, we want our focus to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to enjoy it, and we want to go and see them every day and making sure that they're acclimated to their new space, whatever that looks like. And then things that are left in the home, right? It's like, oh, we have space for that. Why don't we bring that little piece over?
Mm.
Mom would like that. Or all of a sudden, in a week after she's moved in, and she's like, where's my painting above the bed? I've always had a painting above the bed. Great. It's still here. Nothing has happened to it. Grab that. Again, we want to feel this space so they can transition better there.
It kind of eases the anxiety of the whole
Absolutely.
thing, I would imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like your idea. You said zones, like
Mhm.
identify kind of like, so you're thinking about like, when you say that, it's like, here's their like comfort zones within the house, or here's
Yeah.
like the most important places, and then how do we do as close to replicating those as
Right.
possible?
And if you start to think about even the four of us here, right? Like, where do we spend the most time, right? So is it a recliner in the living room, right? Or is it on the sofa?
Mhm.
Or is it, my nightstand that has my CPAP and my eye drops and whatever that looks like, right? So it's like we want those spaces in particularly to look very much the same at the next location.
And that means like using some of the same furniture, kind of
Absolutely.
configured the same,
Mhm.
little knickknacks and stuff that'll just bring back those memories
Right.
and stuff.
And
so.
we will even ask them, do you sleep on, usually we can tell, but do you sleep on the right side or the left side? And they're like, oh, well, why does that matter? And I'm like, well, in your next place, your bathroom is here, and in this home, your bathroom's over here. So does that mean that we need to
Put the bed
put the bed on the east wall instead of the west wall type of thing, and so that you're closer to the bathroom there, if that matters. Someone will say, well, I have to lay on my left side because of my heart condition.
Oh, let's take a look at a couple other before and after pictures, right? And if you guys kind of speak to this a little bit, like how do you go in with like a game plan, I guess, to make sure the after is what you're trying to get to, to the right target, to your earlier point.
Absolutely right. So this is a before and after that we moved someone into in King Brevard House in Burbridge. And so we go in and measure their space ahead of time. So we know, how much space, like how this particular client wanted a new dining room table and new sofa and loves and chair. So it's like we're telling them months in advance what size to purchase, right? And to have it either, delivered to our warehouse or delivered to the cottage once it's completed. But we start with that floor plan. That's like, again, that to visualize what our new home is going to look like. Are we buying something new? Are we creating, something, or like kind of mixing and matching what is in our current home? That's what most of our clients do. And again, are we taking the right amount of things that we're not turning our new home into a furniture store?
Yeah.
If that's not the way that we currently live. So
and probably being thoughtful of tripping hazards and all things like that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, if we're moving to assisted living, we're not recommending bringing any types of rugs. And they're like, oh, I'll get the rug tape and it'll be okay. And it's like, I don't want that on my watch, right? If you decide to bring the rug later, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those types of things, and to make sure that their new home is going to, again, help them to visualize, yes, this is the way that I want it to look when we're all done at the end of the day. Not all of them look like this.
That's probably what they put in their brochures.
Yes,
Yeah,
because it looks
absolutely.
fantastic.
But
all it's missing is the 40-year-old TV sitting on the floor in the corner,
yes.
right?
That's over here.
Yeah.
yeah, but and even like to make sure that like this, they didn't have their TV hung yet, but that was on the docket for the next day, to have that hung over the fireplace. Again, do we have that at home? Is that the right space for it? Should we be putting that onto a stand? Again, scheduling the maintenance department to come in and hang that TV. So all of those details we want to make happen in a very short amount of time.
Well, that looks fantastic. We'll go to the next picture now. This looks like one of your more challenging projects right here. And if I walked in, yeah, I'd start to have heart palpitations a little bit. Like, how do you go into this situation and see what the after needs to look like? Like, I mean, there's a special part of your brain that has to be able to process all this.
Right. So this was Michael's client.
Yeah. So this we spoke about this in Oak Park earlier, right? This is the one where we found this safe deposit box key on the dining table. So the dining table wasn't in this picture, but there was more stuff in the room with the dining room, right? Very tough. When I walked into this house, I could barely get up the stairs. I mean, I had to hold on to stuff in order so I didn't fall. But really, it's just about understanding what the client needs and the why behind it. Tammy alluded to that. This particular client, she was starting to have some memory issues. The family needed to sell the house so that she could go to a facility where she could have the support she needed. And so that was why there was a need for this. So it's really tough. When I walked in, I'll be honest, I was overwhelmed, right? We try to understand and visualize what the why is as to how we got here. So we didn't necessarily have a lot of time with the client to understand that why, but the picture started to unfold for us, right? And then we just start to understand what she needed, what was important to her, what we could still salvage out of here. And that's why in this picture, while it looks like a pile of stuff, to us, to this is the treasures that she was looking for that we were able to salvage out of this, right? And I know it's not a lot, but it's way better than what it was, right?
I bet you a lot of that stuff she probably hadn't seen or found for a long time, and it's probably, like you said, probably is a little bit of a celebration finding these
a little bit of
treasures.
a celebration, but it'd be surprising. So some people, so she even still had a sharp memory. She knew the safe deposit box key was in the dining room. She knew there was money in certain areas, and she told us, this is where you're going to find it. I don't know where in there it is, but it's there. I know it's there. So even though she was experiencing a little bit of dementia, she was still pretty sharp to remember the stuff where she had placed it and put it there before. So that was helpful for us, right, to find the stuff that was important for her. But man, this was a tough job. This job took us a week, and we had three of us working on it. And this was one, unfortunately, where we found some of the mold and some of the other issues where we just weren't able to save as much as we were really hoping to.
Yeah. I will say that this brings me actually joy, right? Because being able to go through the house, find what they want to keep, and her to be very successful at her memory care community, like, I think that is success, right? For this particular, Katie and I were working on this particular living room, and I remember coming across a picture, and I remember just talking about celebrating the wins, right? So it was a framed picture, and it was our client on the floor of this living room with their son in the picture and their daughter standing in the background. Beautiful living room, right? Like, you could just, it was almost like I could see myself in the picture. So I took that picture, and of course I showed it to Katie, and I'm like, we're standing here in this living room, and we put it on the mantle. So it helped the two of us to find that space again, right? Even though, because it does get mentally taxing when you're going through all of these different things, but to, find that, and it was like, for me, like, I'm like, okay, God, I'm really struggling with this. I need something, right? And boom, I moved something, found this picture. The glass was cracked, but I could, I'm like, oh, this is the living room that I'm standing in. And so we put that up on the mantle, and it was like, became like our goal, right? Like, we got to get there today. We got to get to that picture today, right? Like, to make it look like that again in a very short amount of time.
Well, I think that's one of the things you talked about is, like, helping the person move on, right? Life is about chapters. You have different chapters in your life. And it seems to me like this person were stuck in a chapter and couldn't go to the next one until you guys were able to help them out. So.
And in this case, it wasn't just the mom, it was the kids were stuck in that chapter with mom.
Right.
And I think that was one of the other things that really helped us through this job, is knowing what we were doing for those children, right? And really, unfortunately for Tammy, because she got the brunt of it at the end of the job with the walkthrough with the client, bless her heart. But I think at the end of the day, that family's still together because we were able to go in and do this, right? I think
Yeah.
if the family had done this to their mom, that there would be a lot of brokenness there and a lot of really hard feelings that would be really difficult to overcome.
Mhm.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You guys have been a wealth of knowledge in our conversation today. Any other nuggets or anecdotes that you think that either the seniors or the children of seniors really need to know about as they kind of move through this phase of life, where they have to maybe move and transition to either a smaller place or some sort of medically assisted facility and stuff. Any other advice or something we haven't touched on today?
A client told me this, that we've moved him now 3 times.
Oh.
That every person should move when they don't have to move.
That is
So-
wise advice.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're not waiting for crisis to happen, or like all of a sudden we're like, oh my goodness, we're paying for the lawn care, the snow, the lawn. Like someone's coming to help my lawn to get the laundry done. Someone's helping in to clean, right? So it's like, oh my goodness, I'm paying for all of those things just to live under this roof, right? So to really step back from your own life, like Michael and I even talk about this, right? I'm still in my 40s, but it's like, do we need this house any longer, right? Our children now are older. So it's like, let's step back and like, what areas do we use in this house? Does it make sense for us to sell this house, right? Even us as younger folks, right? And should we be moving, right, to a ranch home? So we don't have to do that, but does it make sense, right? So almost to take all the emotional out of it just for a moment, and to ask yourself and get your family involved with your conversation about, I went and looked at 3 retirement communities today. I don't think that I'm going to move tomorrow, but I'm trying to plan for my future, and so by moving and downsizing, whether it's just to a smaller house, condo, townhome, or moving to retirement senior living, this is a huge gift to your family. Just like, can't put a price tag on that you've made all of the decisions that you want to make. Again, that's the planning process that Michael talked a little bit about, the after loss services. You want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, with the after loss services, just give a gift to your family. Have those things prepared. Have it defined how you want your body handled. What do you want the funeral service to look like? Write that stuff down. That allows your family to be at peace with what's happened to you recently, but also to move through that process. I'd also say for those who are aging in place, right? Because there are a lot of people who stay at home. We don't call it downsizing, we call it right sizing, right? You're not downsizing, you're not moving to a thing, but also right size for your current lifestyle, right? Like Tammy was alluding to, we're not empty nesters, but we will be there soon, and right size our current space. Do your family a favor. Don't leave it for your kids as a gift, because really, mom and dad, it's not a gift to me when I have to deal with it, because now I'm trying to understand what would you have wanted, or what do you want, and that really can create a lot of conflict. So do us all a favor and do it while you can.
Yeah. Well, and Tammy, to your point too, I think the kids would appreciate hearing this. If the thing is important, tell me the story behind the thing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, Brennen, let's talk about, first of all, Tammy and Michael, thank you again so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank
If
you.
people need to get a hold of you, what's the best way to seek your assistance?
Yeah. So honoringaging.com, you can absolutely email me directly at info@honoringaging.com. You can call the office and talk with Valerie at 630-524-9282. But that's the easiest place to get a hold of us.
Well, thank you again for your time and your loving, giving nature in the way that you approach this business, right? Because that certainly comes through in the way you talk about the way you deal with clients. And I know we really appreciate it too. And Brennen, you're at the heart of this too, as far as finding ways to equip seniors to enjoy their later years as well.
And helping the families around. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, we're always trying to find ways to help seniors age in place. Brennen, thank you for sponsoring this program too, and Seniors Helping Seniors. We appreciate that and being a part of the Naperville Area Family Guide. We look forward to you all joining us next time when we have another well-educated guest on with us. And we talk about more topics. You can also check us out on Facebook and our YouTube page at Seniors Helping Seniors Greater Naperville. Until then, folks, remember, it takes a village, so play your part in the village. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.